YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
She does identify as transgender, yes. She does identify as transgender, yes.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show exclusively here on a callforanuprising.com. I may, however, upload this to Rumble just as a test, since everybody out there tells me there's no censorship there. Well, if anything's going to get censored, it probably is going to be this video talking about the Covenant school shooting. I already did a video on the website, so if you haven't seen it and you're on the website, check it out about the 33 coding in this. 33, the hoax code, we see it all the time. And I had mentioned how we had 3 adults, 3 children killed at 33 Burton's Hill Boulevard, faculty of 33 people. 33 was all over the place. But if you're not a believer in that stuff and you think that those are coincidences, that's fine. I'll just show you some other things that'll just make you maybe wake up and say, oh, wow, yeah, these events really are created by our government. Now, there's a reason that I'm censored, and there's a reason that a lot of these right-wing guys aren't, and it's not just because of the left-right paradigm. It's because they talk about these events like they're real, then they start talking about mental health, and then you're going to go into this whole narrative that we're about to see with this event with transgenderism and Christianity. How convenient, right? I was just talking about Christianity, the attack on Christianity, and now we have this Psyop immediately after, right? Now, I'm not saying the Psyop's created because of me, obviously not, but I'm saying we're going to see a ramp up. I said it days ago, I said it weeks ago, ramp up in attacks on Christianity, that Christians are the enemy. Now, you would look at this and you'd say, oh, well, how are Christians the enemy if the shooting was done at a Christian school and Christians were killed? Well, because it's the Christians' fault, don't you see? You see, if Christians didn't oppress transgender people, well, then this would never have happened. So if you haven't heard yet, the shooter, of course, conveniently, right out of a script, is transgender. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how you manufacture a civil war. This is how your government is manufacturing a civil war, which eventually is going to be the demise of Christianity. At least that's what their end game hope is. So we have the transgender person, right? So immediately the narrative, which is gun control, starts shifting to, well, there wouldn't have been a problem if Christians weren't oppressing trans people, right? So what's the motive then behind the shooting? Well, the motive, they tell us, is the transgender shooter, the mom was a Christian preacher. We get that, right? She was coordinator at the village chapel, former meals ministry coordinator, volunteer coordinator at the village chapel, church. It's a Christian, right? Now, the shooter went to the school, so there's the motive. So then what's behind the motive? Well, obviously we know now, right? What's behind the motive is that those teachers that were targeted must have oppressed her because she was kept in the closet and her mental health problems. And then what comes after it, of course, from the liberals out there, is the ban on trans surgeries. That's right, the ban, the killings that occurred follow on the heels of the state banning the medical transitioning of minors and adults, of minors and adult drag performances. Well, ain't that convenient, right? But wait, there is more, believe it or not, because not only do we have those things, did you know maybe the most important thing is that there was an active shooting drill done at this school? Yeah, listen to this clip from the news where she talks about active shooting, and then the guy even admits that there was an active shooting drill at the school.
And Ben, if I could just interject here, I mean, I think, you know, you said we both have children. A lot of people have children. We all know that our children, our young children, do these active shooter drills at school. It's not just the earthquake drills and the fire drills anymore. They do these active shooter drills. That's what happened here today. It was a reality. Something that also struck me today when we just pulled up here, they have their Easter sign out advertising their services that are coming up just a couple of weeks from now. Easter is about victory. Nothing about today feels like victory is coming. We are seeing evil here today, and our children are experiencing it.
She mentioned these active shooter drills, which we know this school has had in the past. They were as prepared as anybody to handle a situation like this. The doors were locked. Their team knew what to do when something like this happened. Yet you have a shooter who shoots through the door and goes in, like Carrie said, just such evil there inside.
Thanks so much, Gary, for joining us. We'll probably talk to you a little bit later.
She mentioned these active shooter drills, which we know this school has had in the past. She mentioned these active shooter drills, which we know this school has had in the past.
So that's really convenient. So we had an active shooting drill that went live because every time there's a shooting, we find out, just like the Boston Marathon, September 11th, there's always a drill that happens right before it. Parkland, right? And then they go, oh man, they had the drill and they still weren't prepared for it. Oh, they had the drill because it's a walkthrough, because that's how scripts work. But wait, there's more. Did you see the actress who showed up? I'm going to show you a clip of an actress, and notice this 33-second clip, but I'm going to show you a clip of a woman who showed up after the police were done their press conference, walked in front of the camera, nobody stopped her from doing so, began to speak, so clearly just decided to walk up and speak off the streets, but CNN accidentally flashed her name on the screen. That's right. So they knew her name beforehand, and they quickly removed her name. And of course, even better than that narrative is the fact that this woman so conveniently was also at the Highland shooting, another shooting that occurred, and happened to be Tennessee, right outside this place that had a shooting. She was there visiting her sister, she says. And, the odds of getting struck by lightning twice are better than this happening, but it seems like it's a common theme with a lot of these shootings because the same crisis actors always appear.
Aren't you guys tired of covering this? Aren't you guys tired of being here and having to cover all of these mass shootings? I'm from Highland Park, Illinois. My son and I survived a mass shooting over the summer. I am in Tennessee on a family vacation with my son, visiting my sister-in-law. I have been lobbying in D.C. since we survived a mass shooting in July. I have met with over 130 lawmakers. How is this still happening? How are our children still dying, and why are we failing them?
So we have this woman, what's it going to take? Right? How many times do we hear these women? Remember the Crisis Actor Awards I used to do when you could actually do those things on YouTube? And we would go through all these actors from the Orlando shootings, and they're on screen, they're crying, but then they laugh. Or they do stuff like this where they're just like, what's it going to take? Just so conveniently, this proactive woman who's been to Congress to try to get gun control just happens to be right there as this event occurs, right? She just happens to be right there, and she gets on camera, and she gets on CNN, and CNN conveniently knows her name. Those, ladies and gentlemen, are a lot of coincidences going on at once. And again, you have a manufactured civil war. What are we seeing brewing in all these stories over and over again? Not just the left and the right, the insane versus the non-insane. Literally by definition, like I've said before, a trans person is an insane person. Anybody who thinks that they're born in the wrong body and wants to cut off their penis and cut off their vagina and grow a penis and cut their boobs off and all this stuff, you would tell somebody or ask somebody 100 years ago, they would say that's the definition of insanity. That should be a person that's locked up. That's a danger to society. What they're doing, as all Satanists do and have done through time, is inverting it. So mental health is trending, and it's trending but the wrong way. So you would think that the mental health is trending so that, Christians can point out, look what you're doing to these people. Look what the media is doing to these people. They're making them mentally insane, which is the truth, right? But they're trying to invert that and have mental health trending so that they can say Christians are the ones with mental health problems because this girl, guy, whatever it is, wouldn't have went to the school and shot it up had Christians not said it was wrong to be transgender. As if it's only Christians who say it's wrong, by the way. The whole world, or anybody with a brain, if you go to a third world country, they would probably put you in a cage for even talking the way that these people talk about the stuff they talk about mutilating kids and all of this stuff. But this is the narrative they want out there. This is why a lot of the right-wingers stay out there, because they're going to continue to push this narrative, and they're going to come out and keep talking about, look, the mental illness, it's being caused by these gender transition things. And that's what they want out there, because this just riles up both sides. And of course, they're correct in that statement. But what really needs to be discussed is how these events are created conveniently by our government. Our government's causing the events, and all these events conveniently have motives that revolve around the same thing that they spew on us day in and day out. The transgender crap, Christians being bad, mental health problems, right? Acceptance, tolerance. Love wins, right? Conveniently. It wasn't just some guy went to the school, he hated his teacher, and blah, blah, blah. These things are so easy to read if you actually think clearly, and you just don't watch it in an alpha state of mind where you're just like, oh, that sucks. Oh, that's bad. I mean, look at the list of things that we had here. You could take out the 33 stuff. You could just remove it if you want, because I know some people are like, well, when you look into that stuff, then you're going a little bit too far, even though 33 is flashed everywhere. And in most cases, all these events have a 33 hoax code. And I'm not saying that it was a hoax versus a false flag, but normally the 33 would mean hoax. But you want to say it's a false flag, whatever. I mean, what should be getting discussed is not that this kid has a mental health problem, is that this kid's clearly a product of Central Intelligence. This is a Manchurian candidate sent out, clearly, or positioned clearly to be, the scapegoat for this whole situation, to create a movement, because that's what comes out of these things, right? There'll be movements of, well, we need to remove guns, right? Number one, which is always the agenda. Number two, we need to stop doing this to people who think they're transgender. Let them live their lives, love them. And that's not even what it's about, because these people don't come out and say, hey, why don't you just let them, mutilate themselves? Most people are just like, this is sickening and disgusting, but why are you going to our schools and why are you going after kids? Because they've convinced them that you're born a certain way. It's all mind control, obviously. No one's born gay. No one's born trans. It's mental health. But they want you to think that the Christians are the ones with the mental health. And that narrative is going to get spun. And they're going to start saying, look, they're the ones that believe in invisible man in the sky. Maybe it's time we stop believing in this crap. Maybe it's time that they start living in reality. When in reality, they're living in a different reality. Hence the Matrix, right? It's a different reality that they're in. They're going to invert it and put that on us. We're the ones causing hate. Religion causes hate. It causes war. They'll bring in the Muslims. They'll bring in other things that have happened in the history of the world. Of course, they'll bring in, it won't bring in, the Armenian genocide or any of that stuff with Christian persecution. They'll just bring those things in. And that's where this is headed. So we've had an open drill here. We've had a crisis actor mom conveniently there. CNN conveniently knew her name. And she just walked up in front of the camera with people holding cell phones and just started talking. And they happen to know her name. But, of course that's a coincidence, right? That was an accident. Wink, wink. None of it's an accident. These people have gotten ballsier and ballsier. And they're laughing. They laugh. And they're like, look what we did. We haven't put her name up. Nobody's brain is even processing the fact that we knew her name and she walked in front of a camera and that she's at a second shooting. And how many times do we hear about these people who are at second shootings? How many times? Right? There was somebody at the Vegas shooting at the concert who happened to be at the Orlando shooting, I believe it was, one of them. And they were like, oh, it's my second shooting. And it was just like, what? Your second shooting? You wouldn't meet somebody who was at one, let alone multiple. But again, they roll the crisis actors out. They want to make it seem like it's happening more than you think that it's, oh my gosh, you were at two? That's insane. These are happening every day, happening everywhere. We got to get the guns. Pretty incredible, right? How this is all happening, and it's happening quick. You got to keep your eyes on what's going on here. Obviously, keep your eyes on God, most importantly, but you got to keep your eyes on these narratives. Banks collapsing, food shortages, trains exploding, false flag shootings, gun grabbing, all of it. Brain chip, DNA, pandemics. For people not to see at this point, I always say it, right? I'm just like, it's unbelievable. It really is. It really is. So you get this narrative that just fits so perfect like a glove, right? I mean, just conveniently, right? The agenda, you'll hear more and more about what her motive was. A lot of time there's not a motive. because they just want to say, there's a shooting. Maybe they hear a lot of us talking about the fact that there's never a motive and the person dies, and it's just like, oh yeah, they just randomly went and killed strangers at a grocery where they could have went, if they wanted to kill, they could have went, and done something to someone they hate. Oh, well, now we have that, because they probably have heard us to say it's not suspicious stuff, because they're like, well, why don't we just tie more agendas into it? So if a trans goes shoot up a Christian school, the people won't be that sympathetic towards the people who were killed. They'll want the guns. Christians also want the guns, and conservatives will want the guns. And then we'll flip the story even more, and we'll say this person wouldn't have been messed up in the head if she didn't go to Christian school where she was told that she's not good enough and she was told that she's weird. All this crap that you'll hear coming. Oh, I was told she was strange. Her mother pushed Christianity on her. That's what's coming, folks. You won't hear this in a church. I'm not a minister, obviously. But these are things that Christians are missing. The government is deliberately turning on us. Christians are going to be led astray. They are going to be led lukewarm. They are going to be more and more accepting of sin because they're going to fall into this love wins antichrist narrative, tolerance, acceptance. But remember the quote, Aleister Crowley, do what thou wilt, well, will be the whole of the law. Law under love, right? Love is the antichrist. It's inverted. People are like, no, love is Jesus. Well, no one said Jesus wasn't love. They're inverting the meaning of love to make it mean tolerance, to make it mean, oh, everything's fine. Come on in. Have sex with my wife and my kids. Whatever. Do without wilt. Everybody can do everything, right? Yeah, pretty crazy. But you won't hear that stuff in churches. You won't hear it in ministries. You can't hear it. Me talk about it on YouTube, right? You hear other people talk about it. Why do you think that is? Right? Why do you think that is? Because they don't want you to realize that the Central Intelligence Agencies, the agencies, are creating these events. The narrative you're going to hear from Fox and from all the right-wingers on the internet is about mental health, this and that, and Christians and versus trans, and that's part of the Civil War, and gun bans, conservatives asking everything I've just said. I'm just ranting at this point. Okay? But you get the point, really. So I'm going to probably upload this to Rumble just to see if anyone even wants to see it, but most importantly, just to see how quickly it will get removed, or if at all. But, everyone says you don't get anything removed. Maybe it won't. Maybe it won't. But if it's on there, at least you can share it with people and maybe lead them over to the Rumble channel or to the website so we can keep waking people up instead of getting stomped on. But eventually, this, there won't be, you won't be able to talk and do this stuff anymore on the internet, right? And of course, you'll hear stuff too about her with the internet, and warning signs, and all these narratives, always, 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 because it's all about restrictions, about new laws, about changing the way we live to get more control over our lives. But people don't realize that. But people like me and you do. And I'll continue my best to get the message out because there's still Christians out there that are going to led astray, and that breaks my heart. And I'm not saying that, if you're... There's just so many more things, right, with the mark of the beast and things like that are going to get deceived into. So share this. If I do put on Rumble, please share it. Tell people to sub to the channel. Obviously, if I put this on YouTube, it's gone in 15 seconds. So I'll leave it at that. I thank you guys for being here on the website. Appreciate you guys greatly. God bless you and your families.